things that I've got. I'm digging in moss bags up in the sand, and after work a cold beer in my hand, picking wild berries off God's land. I'm drinking my buddy's homemade wine, living Northwest wild. Hunting, fishing is my kind of style. I float the Wainuchi when it gets hot. I'm proud I own the things that I've got. I'm digging in moss bags up in the sand, and after work a cold beer in my hand, picking wild berries off God's land, and drinking my buddy's homemade wine in the Northwest wild.
Yes, it is.
Starting off with a cough.
You okay?
Yeah, I guess.
Have you been tested for COVID?
Multiple times.
All right.
Apparently, I'm just a little choked up because you're actually back.
I know. You're so excited to see me. You're about to cry.
Oh my God! Tears coming to my eye. Welcome, Fish on Northwest Waiting on, and the illustrious Tommy Donlan,
Yes.
back in studio, gracing us with his presence for a show or so.
It's the least I could do.
Well, I appreciate your effort, man. I realize what I'm getting you for Christmas.
Yeah, another shirt that has sleeves on it.
Yeah, shirt with sleeves.
I knew this was your favorite, so I figured I'm not going to be able to see you again for a while. I better wear it.
Leave a burning impression in the back of my brain.
Yeah.
How you been, man? It's been 3 weeks.
Been good, man. Been unplugged from society. It felt really good.
Yeah.
Yep. No Facebook. No. I got a wonderful 1 bar of 3G that basically is enough for text messaging, and that's about it.
That's all you got.
So that was beautiful.
Yeah, but you know, got to spend a little time with the wife.
Yeah.
Out there on the road, hunting camp, which we'll get into later in the show. Then you were out there for another week or so with the guys, and your Idaho annual Elk Camp, as it were. Looking forward to talking about that, and also later in the show, an emergency on the mountain.
Yeah. Another one.
Yeah, yep. Another one. And, well, you know, those are important to talk about because of what happened, what you guys did, and the takeaways, right?
Yeah.
You know, other things that folks can learn as we talk through this stuff. So, good to have you back. Nice to see you, and I'll take what I can get. So, hey, we got a lot of stuff going on. I want to welcome everybody tonight here at Fish on Northwest. If you have not done so, if you're watching us via Facebook right now, maybe just jump on over to our YouTube channel and hit a subscribe button. Another way of you getting notified of the new and relevant content that we come out with weekly, daily, whatever we have time to post stuff up. We've been out actually filming quite a bit of content as of late. We're hoping to kind of spin that all into our shows as the weeks go on here, Tommy, and you know, get us out of the studio from so much just constant studio time and actually out there doing stuff. So go ahead and check that out for us if you would. I want to welcome everybody tonight. I want to remind everybody, Fish Hunt Northwest is presented by Better Homes and Gardens Pacific Commons Real Estate, located in Puyallup, Washington. And of course, our good buddies out there at Defiance Marine, manufacturers of the Defiance, the Arima, and of course the Allied series. Following up on my boat to see when that's going to start getting up.
What's the projection?
Well, prior to the Sportsman Show, hopefully.
Oh, really? Okay.
So, I communicated with Bo this last week. He was actually heading to Florida, so we're going to reconvene this next week, kind of see where we're at, and get the ball rolling.
Awesome.
So there is that to look forward to. So do us a favor, do them a favor, patronize them over there at Defiance Marine. Really good folks. Got everything you could ever need.
Yeah.
You know? And their used inventory too, though it does not last long.
No, not in this environment.
No, boat sales,
Yeah.
I mean, there's flipping, they don't hang on to them long at all.
Right.
So don't miss out on a great opportunity through Defiance Marine. With that, a number of things going on throughout the Pacific Northwest and beyond, young Thomas. For a lot of you folks, out chasing the deer around, I know I have put in a few hours this last week. And there's a lot of pictures as of late here on social media. A lot of folks locally here too, especially, have done a nice job giving some blacktail dirt nap. I posted up several pictures of friends of ours, the Witt family, them boys, and Nicole, Ken Witt's family. They are flat out getting it done. And if I am not successful tomorrow, I have the luxury of spending a couple days with Ken through this weekend, through the final couple days, Sunday evening being the closure of Modern Rifle, right? Until we get that late season. But I'd rather just soon get it done now so I can just worry about fishing.
Well, I'm hoping that you don't get it done tomorrow.
Why?
Just so that you can harvest one with your Tika T3.
Oh, so I can get my rifle out.
Get your newly pimped rifle out there.
Yeah.
And I want you to get on a shot that's 300. I want you to dope that scope, and I want you to send it.
Dope that scope. Yep. I do like shooting that rifle.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. It is a nice gun to shoot. That new scope does everything I could ask it to do. And it kind of depends what camp you're in. I put some photos out and some video. I mean that 4-point buck that is over there in that property that I've been hunting the last couple of years is a wall hanger. I mean that.
I don't know how you. I mean, I know you had a small alder in the way. I don't know if I would have been as patient and reserved as you were, but I mean. Only you know the shot, right? I think the video that you posted of that buck coming out is very misleading because you look at the video as if you're shooting from where that video is being taken, but in reality, I think you were somewhere off to the right.
I was over to the right.
And you did not have the same sight picture that video was presenting.
No.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I needed him to do one more step, and he did, but he stepped to the right and turned and walked away. I needed him to lunge one more forward and expose that shoulder. But, I was okay. I was like, well, I didn't wound him.
Right, you didn't make a bad shot.
Which would have been horrible.
Yep.
And, it was early in the season. Now we're a week later. Tomorrow's Friday.
Yeah.
The benefit of tomorrow, if you are planning to hunt, good for you, because this little weather change coming in tonight could be productive in the morning. We got some rain, wind gusts up to 18, 20 miles per hour. The forest is going to be a little noisy with leaves dropping, and those critters should be out walking around. Looking forward to some bucks poking their head out. And I will tell you this, if one of those larger body 2 points decides to come pay me a visit,
he's down.
He's
down.
Yeah, I'm not.
I don't blame you at all.
I've put a solid week plus in that ground blind, and guys will balk at that time. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
Like you hunt the hills, you hunt from a ground blind. We're gonna have Tom Ryle on later on the show. Phenomenal blacktail extraordinaire hunter. We've had him in studio multiple times. The guy is just a phenom. Prefers a tree stand. We'll do a ground blind. We'll brush out a blind, do a natural blind, ground blind, what have you. Buddy Steve Kramer, he walks the thick brush with a shotgun, and he has tattooed many blacktail. Yeah. There's different ways to skin a blacktail, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's kind of what you take on and enjoy. This whole thing here, this downwind stuff that you and I agree, the studies have proven with canine that it is extremely difficult to mask humans.
Yeah, it's impossible.
This year, I've actually been taking doe estrus. Yeah. I dump it in here.
And spray yourself.
And spray myself. You ought to smell the back of my truck. So you get into a routine, right? You get into a routine. This close proximity blacktail hunting, when you got deer 20 yards from you and it's in swirling winds, they don't bust and they don't break and they don't leave, you're kind of doing something a little right. I figure fool their eyes, fool their nose, fool their ears. I mean, the nose is the most important. And that wind changes in there constantly. And if I'm able to the only thing going downwind is like the smell of, doe estrus.
Well, at least it's confused, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at least they may pick up a human scent, but then it's followed up by that estrus scent, and they are in the rut, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
they are in the rut. So cameras and videos and observation each day as I go in, pull my cards, see who's been here to visit, what time they come in, what time it allows me to get into my blind so I don't bust them out. The fact that I can leave in the evening once it's dark with my red lamp on and sneak out of there and walk 20 yards past them and I can see
without busting them.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So probably the most successful year I've had in masking scent, although I got to tell you, I'm about done because this all over my hunting clothes in the back of my truck. You open the back of my truck and it is a waft
of horny doe.
Of horny doe. But this morning I'm sitting there and I surmise that doggone it, I am in a makeshift damp, dank shelter day in and day out wearing the same clothes. day in and day out and smell like urine. I feel like I'm homeless.
Yeah. Well,
it's the same.
You're halfway there.
I'm almost there. So it's an opportunity. It's, some would say you're going to way too extreme measures. Unless you've sat in close proximity with deer and have observed them for a number of years, in which I have in this woods over here, whether it's from the tree stand or from the ground blind, and witness their behaviors and hear them grunt and hear them wheeze and hear them control the grunts and the doe bleats and just watch that behavior. It's just fascinating. It really is fascinating. So we'll have Tom Ryle on later. We'll talk about when is it appropriate to use scent, not scent. I laid down a scent trail yesterday. I went into the woods early afternoon, knowing that these bucks are in the rut, knowing that I've had them on video and pictures, sniffer pose, chasing does, really getting aggressive in how they're tending grunts and going after these does. Talking with Tom, he says, "Yeah, go lay down some trails of scent." So I went into there and did my triangle. The blue dot is where my blind is. The red dot is where we throw some apples to draw the does in. The rest of that is on my Onyx maps, basically laying down tracks, right?
Okay.
And I'm laying down doe estrus scent. Those bucks that are so apt to get on a doe scent and follow right on in, the idea there is they'll cross one of those lines, they'll get on that scent, and it's going to circle them back to me at some point, right? So that is an option. The other thing we got going on there, man, they are attacking this one tree. Every day I go in there, this rub on this one particular tree is pretty impressive. And I've walked in and have heard them rustling in the brush and beating on stuff, just knocking their head against stuff. But that big dude is tearing the snot out of that tree.
Oh, you don't like that tree.
He does not like that tree.
Yeah. There's
a lot of buck activity.
Are you hearing them rub when you're in the blind? Do you hear them?
It's dark.
Scraping and rubbing?
Yep.
Okay.
So I have a set of antlers in my blind. I have a knocking stick because instead of always rattling, beating that antler against the stick to make it sound like it's rubbing a tree, deadening sound, right? There's different things.
Have you seen the bucks fight at all?
No, just on camera, the younger ones, butting heads.
Okay.
But I haven't seen the big guy take on like the 2x3 or the 2 points or anything.
Okay.
The 2 points have been going at it on camera. So, and every one of them bucks coming in as of late is just, they're right up in on them does. They are chasing them out of there. There's a lot of activity. So you couple that with, throughout this area, this Thurston County range and beyond, there's a lot of guys, witnessing that, hey, these bucks are seriously in the rut right now, or right at the front edge of it. They're chasing does, they're sniffer posed, they're ground sniffing, they're scent checking. I actually observed those bucks leaving licking branches. Tom Ryle was like, "What?" I go, "Yeah, he came in, he licked the branch, turned around and walked away." It's
really?
Yeah, you don't
put a little bit of a saliva on it.
Yeah, that's how they mark the territory.
Okay.
So
pulled a Joe Biden on the branch and then moved out.
Yeah, he sure did. It's like, "Hey, I'm here." Keeping an eye on those young does over there. Anyway, so it's interesting to see that amount of activity. I'm going to give it one more day. And if I can knock something down tomorrow, it's going to happen. And if not, we'll see what the weekend holds. I hope everybody that's out chasing blacktail right now, or if you're heading to the east side, get your deer hunt on. Get out and get it done. And when you are successful, post those pictures up here at Fish Out Northwest on our Facebook page. We love to see person's successes. So, more to the story as we get through the week. We'll see how.
I'm excited for you, man.
Yeah, I am.
I'm really excited.
I know you want me to shoot that rifle. I'm not against it. I would love to actually put one down 200-300 yards. That would be outstanding. So we'll see where it goes. Hey, reminder everybody: the clam digs remain closed. Domoic acid. Now, different reports out there via social media. WDFW had come out and said it was closed due to the acid levels being 20 parts per million, I believe, was the number that was thrown out there above what the safe zones are. Other reports came out and said, well, only Long Beach has a domoic acid. The other beaches are closed due to the influx of folks, Tommy, and COVID concern. Now, in all fairness, I haven't talked to anybody at WDFW this week. I didn't call them. But those were some reports that were generated out there, and persons were saying, well, if only one beach is because of acid and the rest were because of COVID concerns or the uptick on some numbers in some counties, then why don't we just come out and say so? Why just mask it all under domoic acid? So, the end of the day, the beaches are closed, unfortunately. But apparently there is commercial harvest still going on in the areas where the acid levels are safe. So that to me is a bit of a frustration, a bit of a rub that I don't like to hear. Now, again, I didn't talk to anybody at WDFW. I'm just asking that, if there's reasons for closures, let's just make sure with their intel folks, they get that proper information out there to notify folks and just be forthcoming with info.
Yeah.
That's all we ask. So, local fishing reports, rivers have been on the steady drop this last week, Tommy. Water's getting low and clear. What's interesting, Josh and I were talking before the show, and some of these harbor rivers and out here in this region that we fish, it's been tough on days to find coho. Decent numbers of coho. You pick one off here and there. You'll twitch one up. You'll get one on eggs. We'll encounter some coho here and there. But latest hatchery reports on some of these rivers, man, they got a good amount of coho in. They got more coho in right now than they had last year at this time.
Oh, really?
And you're going, well,
where are they?
Yeah. How come they're so hard to find in the river? Now, the nice thing is we got a good shot of rain coming here the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And so maybe by 5, 6, 7, 8 through the weekend, those rivers are going to be on the drop. We should see a significant influx of coho and chum into a number of our rivers, and it should start performing pretty well, which I'm looking forward to because we want to get out there and get some twitching on, some spinners, start pulling some plugs, and capture a lot of those key components of how that all goes down and some of the benefits of utilizing those types of techniques and the finer points. We'll get that on video and put those together for folks to watch because there's a lot of key takeaways that we can present to you guys. Yeah. And that's what we're hoping on for November. That's our goal. Also, before we jump out for a quick break, a late entry here this afternoon, I read online here that the Fed stepped in and they have officially delisted wolves, the federal delisting of wolves in Washington and Oregon. That happened today. In the reports I read, Director Suswan indicated it doesn't change a whole lot currently or in the near short with reference on how currently WDFW is managing our wolf populations. But what it does do is allow full control at the state level, and a federal delisting does allow states now to introduce hunting as a means of control and trapping. So as we move forward, we may see some changes in regulations coming about. Not saying we are, but we may, because the state has the authority to do so in problematic areas and with packs that are raising havoc. Once again, the state can interject options such as they can utilize options such as hunters and trappers to help control wolf population. So for whatever that's worth.
Right. After Inslee just got done saying, stop killing wolves. Stop killing wolves.
Because the people in other states aren't happy with the fact that WDFW kills wolves, and so I'm going to listen to them and not our management committee.
Yeah. They're not talking to our neighbors in Idaho. I know that for sure.
No, they should.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
It'd be a different story.
Okay, we are going to jump out for a quick break. That we got cut up on that stuff there. Saying hi to everybody. Lucas is checking in. Bill Allen's checking in. Oh, Shing's checking in. How about that? Jasonian. Lots of folks. Kent saying hi. Like to see all folks tuning in. Hey, you got some questions? Throw them at us. We're going to jump out for a quick break. We come back. Tommy, you're going to unbox your recent trip to Idaho. Yeah. Your annual trip, your elk successes, and if it might be a failure, moderate failure, or did you meet your expectations, right? Was that trip what you wanted it to be? And, is out-of-state hunting everything it is? Everything people should think about?
Just to let you know, I never meet my expectations. I have high expectations. Yeah. Okay.
That keeps you going back. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Yeah. It keeps you going back. All right. We'll jump out for a quick break. When we come back, we're going to drill it down here with Tommy on his return from his Idaho elk hunt and how that all went down right here on Fish Hunt Northwest. Marine is the one-stop shop for the Pacific Northwest angler. Whether you are looking for a small skiff to fish the Sound or rivers, or a huge offshore tuna machine, Defiance Marine has it.
At Defiance Marine, be sure to power your boat with a Honda Outboard Package. Take advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty on your Honda outboards. Our service department is always here to help and serve you as the customer. Did you know Defiance Marine has boat financing experts to help get you the best term rates on your new boat purchase? If you need financing for that new boat, call us today. We guarantee the best price, best service on a repower for your current boat. Defiance Marine is a Honda Premier dealership and one of the largest on the West Coast. Defiance Marine also carries all the gear that you will need. Everything from auxiliary kicker motors to fishing tackle and bait. Defiance Marine has certified technicians that are top-notch at their job. Some of the best in the Pacific Northwest at evaluating your boat issues and problems. Stop in today or give us a call for all your needs at Defiance Marine.
Hey, welcome back, Fish on Northwest. Dwayne, Eagle, and Tommy Donlan in studio. Lots of folks checking in. Michaela's checking in. James saying hi. Appreciate all you guys jumping on here tonight. And hey, do us a favor. Share this out with all your friends and followers. Tell them to jump on board. Check out what we got going on here tonight in studio at Fish on Northwest. Spread our knowledge so that we don't have to, I guess.
That works.
Anyway, back from Idaho.
Yep.
Back from an annual deal. How many years have you been going over there?
3 now. Started in 2018. Would have went in 2017, but I had this little commitment called a marriage. We were getting married in Kauai, and so couldn't quite make the transition from Kauai to Idaho. Had to stop in Belize. So no, it's been going on for 3 years.
Yeah. And same. You gone back to the same place, pretty much.
Same zone. Right? Yep. It's the Panhandle zone in Idaho.
Yeah.
And it's a lot different hunting than what you would typically expect. You know what the thing is with elk, there's nothing typical about elk. You know, you'll get, if you think you can put together follow steps 1 through 5 and you're going to get an elk, you're going to have your doors blown off because there is no game book. It is so difficult to get on these animals.
Talk about the topography, the terrain, the forest, the type of landscape that you're actually hunting in.
Yeah, and so, the area that we hunt is actually a fairly road-dense area. There's a lot of roads that go through there. A lot of forestry roads. And so for the road hunter, it's really easy to get in there. But what that does ultimately is that means that you're hunting these elk in the timber. It's not an easy hunt. It's not like, hey, I'm gonna get away from the crowd. I'm gonna go up and sit this clear cut, and then these elk are gonna feed out into the clear cut. That is totally not this game plan. It is a timber game where we hunt. And what happened the first 4 days of our hunt is we got torrential downpour. We've got 30 knot to 40 knot winds. Trees were falling down around us where we had camp. I mean, it was a pretty ugly situation. And so all those elk went into the leeward side of the mountain, and they found themselves just in the deepest, darkest, nastiest holes, kind of in these bowls, like these deep bowls, to the point where they were down in the creek bottoms, active flowing water, and did not care about the noise that stream is making. Typically they don't like to put themselves in a situation where they've got a noise source and you take away one of their senses. But that's where they were.
How thick is this timber? Because there's
you're seeing,
there's thick timber where you actually have, let's say, 8 to 10 to 12 foot spacing on trees. And the floor is almost like moss carpet and small underbrush, or you have a lot of real small trees coming up in the mix in that, which makes it really thick to get through. Right.
No, your long shot in this situation is going to be about 40 yards. Yeah. That's about it. And a lot of it, you've got huckleberries everywhere. You've got this all nasty alder-brush that's like, it's like an octopus in the woods, I swear to God.
It's always
every time you turn around, it's stepping, it's tripping you up and everything. So it's not, the one thing that the rain did for us is it kind of quieted down that under, the underneath the canopy on the forest floor, kind of quieted down a little bit. But man, you're still in their zone and you're still having to go through downfall. And
did you have any option to shoot? Did anybody in your group ever have an option to shoot at an elk that wasn't moving?
One morning.
You know what I mean?
One morning.
Because that type of vegetation, and you're actually going through trying to stalk on elk that you can't see until all of a sudden you see them, and they've heard you. I mean, it's hard to be that quiet.
Yeah. You know, and I'm not, with elk, I'm not concerned about being quiet.
Yeah.
You know, being quiet, you know, it's one thing if you're, you know, making human noises in the woods, but if you're breaking a stick here or there, I mean, they're noisy animals. They're doing the same thing. I'm not so worried about that. I'm more worried about what the wind's doing as I'm entering their area. And I tell you what, where they went to the area they were on the mountain, because you've got a ravine every 300 to 400 yards. You've got a ridge and a ravine and a ridge and a ravine, and you've got a creek, right, with multiple fingers. And, you know, you get into the timber and the wind's in your face and you're like, okay, great, you know, early morning, the sun's come up, it's hitting the hillside, sending the thermal up. You go another 30 yards and now you've got a crosswind and you're like, okay, you know, that takes away a little bit of my advantage. And then pretty soon it's blowing at your back and then you're screwed, right? And that wind would just shift, and you walk down the ridge, drop off one side, and it's a completely different story. And as soon as that scent gets to that elk, or one of those elk, it's game over. They're vacating the area. I couldn't tell you how many tracks that we saw, game trails, that were just freshly vacated because of that wind situation. So we were in the elk, you know, I don't know about every single day, but maybe every other day. They were there. And with that wind, we just got schooled.
There's not much you can do.
Right.
I mean, if it's consistently out of one direction, at least you got an angle. When it swirls like that, changes direction, and with valleys, you know, and peaks like that, that's typically what happens.
Yeah.
You know,
it's tough to hunt as a solo hunter.
Oh, yeah.
So the solution to this is like, hey, you know, we know where they are. That's a good thing. They're not leaving this area. You might bump them from, you know, here, and they go a quarter mile and they kind of settle down, but they're not leaving that basin or that, you know, that general area, because if they go back to the other side of the mountain, they're just getting blown. And so, you know, what we did ultimately was kind of coordinated small kill teams that we would send in. A couple guys would walk down the ridge, a couple guys would come from below or a different direction. And as soon as you get those elk moving, then you capitalize on where their known travel routes are. And so we ended up, we had 10 tags, we filled 5. That's 50%. Average success rate for this unit, it's about 15 to 20% depending on the year. So, but it's still not the way I like to hunt elk. You know.
But you keep going back.
I know. Well, I need to get on the you know, the Sportco Lady program where they're going to Wyoming, they're going to Idaho, they're going to Nevada and New Mexico. That's the program. And I was watching Randy Newberg kill just massive mule deer in western Wyoming. That's the program I want to be on, man. Where you're on a hillside and you're glassing elk that are, you know, 300 to 500 yards away, and you're finding the bull. And the timber hunting is extremely difficult. You can't do it. You can't do it without a team. With that kind of wind. If you got a consistent wind, you know, and you don't have all these little peaks and valleys and ravines and the wind mixing, you can successfully timber hunt with a consistent wind. As soon as it's shifting everywhere, it's a nightmare.
Well, you still got your Washington elk tag.
Yep, that's next.
And you got your Washington deer tag. Right? That's next.
That is next.
The agenda. So things to look forward to, you know, I mean, okay, so you guys were 50% out of your camp in Idaho. I have no interest in doing timber hunting for elk. It's just it's tough. There's other ways to go about it.
It's one thing if they're in the rut and you're calling in a bull, right, and you've got them. That's completely different, right? This is post rut. They're not interested in any sound that you're going to make. You know, we did hear, you know, the first day and even the days leading up to the season, we heard a couple bugles here or there, very sporadic, but you know, that died shortly thereafter.
Probably hunters.
Could have been.
Trying to get a reaction out of them. Well, maybe there's somebody late to the party that'll answer.
Right.
So, anyway, well, moderate success to say the least. You guys had a good trip, and got the family out. Young Thomas's first elk hunt. He enjoyed it.
He said, "Time to buy me a rifle, Dad." I'm like, hey, no problem, son. You got it.
Perfect. And looking forward to success on your elk hunt here in Washington. Of course, your deer. So we still got some hunting to do. Oh, by the way, maybe you'll be gone. I don't know. I'm getting a hold of Mike. We're going to go shoot some birds. Time to go get some waterfowl.
There you go.
And And we'll see if we can't put that together. And when you're back, of course, I mean, the season is long, so we need to get after some waterfowl. But all right, well, glad you're back. Moderate success on that regard, and lessons learned. And we have more to the story.
We do. Yep.
Later in the show.
Yep.
Talk about a little incident that happened on the mountain within Tommy's group that required at some point a life flight helicopter.
Yep.
Transfer the individual to a different hospital for the injuries. Some pretty serious stuff. And we don't take things like this lightly. You remember not too long ago we talked to our good friend Ron Cady, who was mauled by that grizzly in Montana-Idaho border. Now here's another, it just tells me I'm staying out of Idaho. Too much stuff happens in Idaho.
The hunting's too good to stay out of Idaho.
True, the hunting's too good. So we will get more to that story later on in the show, but before we get there, we're going to jump out for a quick break, and we come back, we're going to talk with Mark Riedesel with Fish Northwest. There is a lawsuit that has been filed on behalf of recreational anglers here in Washington State. Believe it or not, Tommy, it's leveraging on the Boldt decision to ensure that we are properly represented at the table, to ensure that we are getting our opportunity at our 50% of the breakout on these fisheries.
Right.
And there is statistical data supported by a number of years that shows that it may kind of be shifted and has been shifted for quite some time in certain elements of our fish seasons as they're drafted. That we are not getting fair representation. I believe is the gist of the lawsuit. So I'll let Mark delve into the majority of the information on this, but I want you guys to stick around because this is one of those quasi-political educational components that you need to be aware of. Like, how come we aren't getting more fish? Well, there are things that happen behind the scenes that you need to understand. And education is powerful. So we're going to talk to Mark. We come back from the break about this pending lawsuit that's already been filed in Seattle District Court. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back here at Fish on Northwest.
An Outdoor Emporium is the largest local outfitter in the Northwest since 1975, providing thousands of people affordable outdoor gear. This summer, make your next outdoor adventure more affordable by shopping at our warehouse-style pricing. We are a local Scotty dealer, offering sales, service, and repair. Located in Fife and Seattle, come visit us today. The outdoors await you.
It's easier than ever to browse homes and connect with an agent on the go with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate's mobile app. With the app, your home search is synced across all of your devices, so you can pick up your home search anytime, anywhere. Take full advantage of an enriched, mobile-optimized map search experience. Use location services to quickly find homes near you that match your search criteria. Draw your own map boundaries to find homes in a specific area, and apply layers to view school districts, neighborhoods, zip codes, and more. The app's user-friendly design makes it easier than ever to find a home you'll love. Narrow down your search results, save your search criteria, and save your favorite homes. You can browse your saved homes in a list view that puts photos and key details like price and square footage right at your fingertips. Or check out your saved homes displayed on the map.
Hey, welcome back, Fish on Northwest. Wayne England, Tommy Donlan in studio. And our next guest, first time via phone. One of these days we'll get him in studio here. Mark Riedesel, Fish Northwest. And Tommy, you had mentioned that you hadn't heard of Fish Northwest. And once I got a hold of this story, kind of did some tracking down and found their information out there in their Facebook page and whatnot. And lo and behold, left some messages on some phone numbers, and Mark ended up giving me a call. So
right on.
Yeah. Hey, welcome to the program, Mark. Thanks for taking the time this evening to join us.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So you folks are in the position, you have filed a lawsuit in District Court in Seattle on behalf of, I guess, for lack of a better term, on behalf of recreational anglers in the state of Washington. And you are taking WDFW somewhat to task in that you are looking for fair and equal representation at the table when it comes to getting our 50% allocation. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's pretty fair to say. Like we were talking earlier, we got done with this last year's North of Falcon season, and walking away with no winter blackmouth fishery aside from a little snapshot in Area 10 was really deflated a lot of guys that fish the salt in our marine Puget Sound areas. And that was kind of a tipping point for a lot of the advisors that participate in North of Falcon, and a lot of fellow anglers. And it was to a point of like, well, what can we do? And so the topic of a legal intervention was brought up, and so a group of 5 of us up here in the North Sound kind of all got together and said, hey, we should tackle this, and it just kind of grew from there. We've gotten a lot of good help and advice from a lot of the players that have been in the game for a long, long time. I mean, the 5 board members that started this are just average guys that love to fish. We all kind of are a little Area 7 specific, but the lawsuit and the motion to intervene pertains to all of Puget Sound. I mean, this has affected lots and lots of folks, not just our fishery that we like to fish in. So this is a representative issue of all of Puget Sound.
Yeah, and you guys have statistical data that would show in some of the, I guess, end result of North of Falcon indoor through the negotiation process that we're not always getting our fair share or our fair take, our 50% of opportunity on a number of these fisheries, right?
That's correct. We had Pat Patillo did some analysis for us. He was lead negotiator in North of Falcon for years. He's since retired, and he kind of broke it down for us and provided us a lot of really good technical data. As several of us are advisors that sit on advisory committees for fish and wildlife, and one of the things that's always stressed when we start is, you need to make decisions or recommendations on science and facts. Yeah. And so you put personal interest aside. We all have our little select fisheries we really like to do, and you put that in a little box, and then you look at the big user group and try and make recommendations that benefits everybody in the recreational community. And then, with Pat, he broke that down and used science and data, and spelled all that out there. And you guys, anybody can go to the website and pull up his declaration, and he spells out all those specifics. I won't get into that on this, but if people are interested, they can go to our website and read what he's laid out there. And it's very factual based. So that's kind of, once we got a hold of some of that, it was like, wow, this really makes sense. And the equality and sharing for the Boldt decision of 50-50 is the pendulum swung the other way. And so since Fish and Wildlife is our, representative in the North of Falcon negotiations, we felt that, it's time to apply some pressure in this fashion to say, hey, we want that pendulum back in the middle. And from there, let's work on some other solutions. But first step is we got to get this back into equality and sharing for both user groups.
Yeah, Mark. So how far has that pendulum swung to the other side? I mean, is it 10%? Are we talking more like 20%? Where are we at?
This last year, I think it's between 10 and 12%,
which is considerable.
It's a massive amount, and there's some court rulings from back in 1985 when Kurt Smitch was part of the department, and there's some rules and laws that talk about not exceeding 5% and paybacks because of that, and so there's some guiding rules and guidelines that were put in place so that this didn't happen. And it has, and a lot of it has to do with the department doesn't have their own ESA permit, and we always piggyback on our co-managers permits. And there's some levers that get pulled, and they have been for the last 5 years that kind of sway things in their favor, and rightfully so. I mean, if I was in that position, or we were in that position, that it's easy to go down the path of like, well, we'd probably do the same thing. So, but we're saying, hey, the rules are there. Let's follow them and follow those guidelines and give everybody an equal opportunity in this.
Let's delve into that permitting process just a little bit, Mark. Just for those that are unaware, if you could walk us quickly through the path of what the permitting process is all about, and the end result of this lawsuit, what the goal is in regards to WDFW obtaining their own permit and what that would look like for the recreational community.
Okay, so in really kind of broad strokes, layman terms, our co-managers, they basically ride first on the permit that gets us through the North of Falcon, the ESA, Endangered Species Act stuff, through NOAA, and the department piggybacks on that, as they go through the North of Falcon process. And the end result is they have to agree on it, and then it gets submitted to NOAA, and then NOAA approves it after there's an agreed to fisheries or a list of agreed fisheries. You hear the term the LOAF used in North of Falcon process. So once that LOAF is agreed to, then, since the tribes or the co-managers hold first, then that gets submitted as an agreed to fishery, and it's approved, and we all go fishing. And there's a lot of those North of Falcon process that the public is not allowed in, so we don't get to hear, the negotiation process. We get relayed information through the department, and I think that can be fairly filtered at times. We're not getting to hear the ins and outs of everything. It would be really nice if we could have observers in the room or TVW that could broadcast those negotiations so that people are just aware of how that all plays out and we can see the reality of it. Ideally, we would love to see the department acquire their own ESA permit, and that would help level the playing field and keep each party honest in the bargaining and the decisions of how to split up fisheries and allocate quotas here and there. So that would be a big factor in what we'd like to see happen as well.
So is the data that is presented in the lawsuit, do you think that's going to be contentious data, or do you think that's pretty objective data that, WDFW is going to look at and they're going to say, you know what, you're right, and here you go? What is your thought on that?
I think they're gonna probably go down the path of objection. I just got word late last night, early today, that the department has filed a motion to deny our claim to intervene as Fish Northwest, which we would fully expect that to happen. Just because I don't think that I don't think the parties want to get into a lawsuit situation, or they want to kind of cut this off before it gets too far down a path, and so ultimately it goes in front of the judge tomorrow. He'll start his decision making process whether he grants Fish Northwest the motion to intervene or not. I personally think that the data and stuff that Pat has provided and the testimony that we have, or the declarations from Amanda Recker, Kurt Smith, Pat Patillo, there's a lot of facts and science and some really solid testimony there that would be really hard to dismiss that. But I'm not the judge, and none of us are, so that it's kind of in their hands. We've done our part working with our attorneys to get it to this stage, and now we just have to be a little patient and see what it leads to.
Well, you folks are amongst a small group or contingent group that they're finally trying to take stuff to the next level and get some resolve. A couple things that you had mentioned, open door meetings, or at least the ability to observe the negotiations that go on in what is known as North of Falcon. And here at Fish on Northwest, we continue to cover that information, try to expose or help educate folks on the process. And it's been kicked around for a couple of years. And last year, the group out here, out of the harbor, they continued to fight for that in litigation, trying to get those open door meetings. Fish allocation has always been one that continues to come back around. And of course, just this entire North of Falcon process being so locked down and so secretive that, even the loaf process, you just feel like these fisheries are completely agreed to prior to even breakout in these subcommittees, of which you and other folks are part of in the Puget Sound sector. So, a lot of these things need to be addressed. Very happy that folks like you, Mark, and your supportive group is willing to take this task at hand hold WDFW accountable to where they need to be accountable to the citizens of Washington State. I mean, there's no secrets here. It's like, hey, they're the lead agency in charge of our fishing and hunting, end of story. And we have always deserved fair and equal representation at the table. I've been saying it for years, just represent us fairly, equitably, and ensure that we are getting our 50%, we are getting our access to land where we deserve to be, because we were all born here too, residents of this state. They're our governing agency that represents us. We're just asking for fair representation. And Tommy and I are both very glad that your group is willing to take this into court and see where it lands.
Yeah, no, and we talked about that too. It's, gosh, we all love to fish and hunt in our state, and our state could truly be a showpiece. And I would love to see the department get a bunch more money and do a bunch of magical things.
Absolutely.
Like, there's all kinds of really cool projects and programs, and you can talk to employees within the department, and they've got wonderful ideas. And we'd love to see more funding for them, and more programs, and more hatchery fish, more land access. I mean, there's the list is endless. There's so many great ideas out there, but we all feel like, politics and money kind of muddy the waters of some truly great things that could happen. And hopefully this kind of resets the stage and sends us on a better direction than the one we've been on for a while. I mean, I walked away from this last year's North of Falcon, and I literally said out loud that this process is broken.
Yeah.
I mean, this is this is just not working. And man, I have been a staunch supporter of the department and staff and some of the great things they do. But after this, it was like, man, we gotta rally some guys around and get something going here before it's all gone. And as we all know, once something gets taken away, it is really hard to regain it once again.
Yeah, once it's gone, it's it's like you just said, it's almost near impossible to get it back on this recreational side. So as you kind of mentioned, you and I both have a lot of friends that work within a department, a lot of really good folks in the agency doing a lot of really good work. Oftentimes their eagerness to get things moving forward in the positive light is held back due to funding issues, lack of funds, predominantly muddied up in politics, all those things. We need to get to a point where we're securing funding, providing them the tools necessary to manage a resource such as Department of Fish and Wildlife in a state populated by 7.5 million people, and allow them to take the task on full head and make some positive change. So this is a step in the right direction. Again, appreciate the work you guys are doing. We're going to definitely stay in touch. Keep us up to date on how this is progressing, and we'll jump you in and off of the show here, or in and out of the show, just to make sure folks are staying up to date on how this type of litigation is progressing out of Seattle.
Absolutely. Anytime. I appreciate you guys having me on and enjoyed it. And anytime you want me back on, I'd be glad to hop on with you guys.
Perfect.
Thanks,
right.
Mark.
Mark, thank you very much. Have a great evening. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
You too. Take care, guys.
All
Bye.
Right. Fish Northwest, not to be confused with Fish
Hunt Northwest.
Fish Northwest. You can find them on their Facebook page. I believe they have a web page. Check them out and just kind of keep tabs on where this is going. I get it. It's politics, Tommy. It's behind the scenes information, but it's important. It's important. Yeah. And hey, we're not throwing WDFW under the bus here. This is something that's been brought to light. Yeah. That needs to be looked at.
Well, it's not even really politics. A rule was put, a set of rules and requirements were set into place. It's 50%, okay?
Yeah.
You measure and you say, what did we achieve 50%, 50-50 or not?
Yeah.
And when you look at the math, we're not achieving it, right?
And why not?
So that's pretty objective. I would say that's more on the lines of math than it is, politics.
Yeah,
but.
Good point. All right. Well, that was information that I was looking forward to, and Mark did a nice job there. I think my mic's cutting out a little bit here. Okay, we're going to jump out for a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get our buddy Tom Ryle on the phone. You folks are familiar with him. He has been in studio. Actually, I think he's been in studio more than any other guest at this point.
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest bow hunter. He has written a number of fantastic blogs. We are going to talk scent. We're going to talk rattling. We're going to talk buck grunts. We're going to talk doe bleeds, tree stand, ground blind, masking scent, all those things. We have tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday, Tommy, modern rifle. Now, Tom's out there archery hunting. He's got a multi-season tag, and he archery hunts through the entire season.
Does he really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he doesn't even pick up a smoke pole, huh?
Oh, not at all.
He's all about the archery.
Okay. Shotgun for turkeys.
I wish I was that talented.
He uses his long bow for deer.
Yeah.
And so he will transition right into archery, opens next week, and he'll just keep right on hunting if he's not successful in the next 3 days. Though we'll talk to him a little bit about this weather coming in and how that could be a game changer for both he and I and other hunters out tomorrow morning, which I'm really looking forward to. So don't go anywhere. Tom Ryle is full of amazing information. Get your notepad out or your phone. Take notes from this guy. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back here at Fish Hunt Northwest. A Northwest favorite for almost 40 years, Arima Boats are manufactured with pride right here in Bremerton, Washington. Arima Boats offers all of our boats with Honda outboard packages so that you can take full advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty from your Honda outboard. With literally thousands of Arima boats on the water throughout the Pacific Northwest, Arima boats are a proven hull design that offers incredible fuel economy and all of the amenities that a serious angler is looking for. All Arima boats are built without any structural wood materials. That is why we back our boats with a lifetime warranty. All of our Arima boats are designed to maximize deck space while also providing ample seating. Contact us today at Arima Boats for all your boating needs and let us help you get out on the water. Welcome back, Fish Hunt Northwest. Next guest on the phone is no stranger, Tommy, to in studio and, of course, via the phone. We much rather have Tom in studio, but with the whole COVID deal, we're taking extra precautions. And because when he comes in studio, he brings toys. And, he brings his antlers to show rattling. He brings his buck call. He brings his doe bleeds. He talks through the progression of all that. So we'll just have to kind of pick his brain via the phone. There we go. He doesn't want you blowing on his calls. I get it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Anyway, how you doing tonight, Tom?
I am doing good, and just so you know, I don't blow on calls. I inhale through calls.
Oh, yes, you do. Yes, all right. Hey, we got 3 days left. We got a little weather change coming on this evening and into tomorrow morning, which has me kind of excited about what's happening, because let's face it, you and I have both been out the last few days on and off, either morning or evening hunts, and these 50 to 60 degree temperatures, little to no wind, just not real conducive to a whole lot of deer activity where I have been especially, but also in some of the stands that you are putting time in.
Yeah, I mean, I think, one thing that I want to make clear to people, because I think it's kind of a misnomer that, the rut is kicked off by, the cold weather. I mean, cold weather will always increase deer activity, especially buck activity, because the temperatures are cooler and they're moving a lot. But the rut happens at the same time every year. And this last week in October is really the kind of what I would call the peak of the pre-rut. and that's a whole can of worms. But basically, think about peak breeding being around the 12th of November, and if you work backwards from there, you're going to have some does going into heat early. You're going to have some testosterone levels going through the ceiling on these bucks, and so you're seeing the chasing, you're seeing the daytime activity, and this really kind of hits a crescendo right before peak breeding, which is what we're approaching here. And that's in my mind, this is the best time to encounter a mature blacktail during daylight shooting hours. Is this last week in October, and then of course, you know, if you could hunt the first 2 weeks of November, it would be ideal. But you can pick up again in that late 4-day season. I've taken a lot of deer with my bow in that 4-day season.
Yeah. So with what's happening right now, whether you are, well, if you're out walking the landscape, rifle hunting, using your binocs and, you know, glassing deer and figuring it out that way, or if you are a little more tied in with them, albeit a tree stand or a ground blind, what are some things you can do that work in your favor right now, knowing the type of deer behavior that we should be seeing and or are seeing? What are some things we can do that would work to our advantage versus push them away?
Right. So, I mean, number one, bucks are keyed in on does. So obviously a physical doe standing in a clear cut is going to be your go-to, right? A live decoy is always best. But that said, I always preach, you know, understanding where doe groups are in your hunting areas throughout the year, because those are the resident areas that they live in. And what bucks will do this time of year is the core bucks in that area will certainly know where those does bed and the trail systems, and they will stay on the downwind side and check those. Sometimes they'll march right through them, but essentially they're trying to stay efficient with their movements. So, you know, I say key in on does. I always say that. Everyone, it's well written about, you know, in the whitetail world, but it holds true. So I had a friend of mine up north was texting me today, and he was going to be on foot. And I said, you know what, if you're going to be on foot, you know, hit the big timber, look for bedding areas, look for deer, glass the cut, and move on. You know, if you're not seeing deer, and I told him too, take some time to pause and really listen, because you're going to hear bucks chasing does. And, you know, if you've heard 2 deer running through the ferns or a salal in, you know, kind of a big timber, kind of understory type habitat, it's loud, you know, and so you can oftentimes hear deer getting chased around, and you can move yourself into position for a shot. And I would say this is the time to be aggressive on your movements. Keep the wind right, but you've all seen the buck on the side of the road with a doe, and he's just standing there with a big old neck looking at you. That you'll never see that deer do that any other time of the year. Yeah. So this is a chance to, you know, if you're going to push your luck, now's the time to do it, because you know, you get into late November into December, and these deer start recuperating, and there's a second rut in there, but at the end of the day, this is it. This is game time right now.
All right, we're going to get Josh. We're going to put him in a doe suit. Yeah. And we're going to hit him with the 5-gallon jug of estrus. And then we're going to have him march through the clear cut and see if we can draw out some of those bucks. Yeah. I do have a question, though. So we talked a little bit at the beginning about, you know, the weather. And we talked about temperature. So, you know, Tom, in this pre-rut going into rut phase, got a couple days left on the clock on the season here. And, you know, I mean, these are blacktail, right? So they're not really affected by rain. They live in rain. They're used to the horrible weather that we have here in the Pacific Northwest. But the cold is a different story, right? So how, in order to really get them moving around and get them feeding, how cold is cold, and what are you looking for in terms of that weather pattern?
Well, I think what you're looking for is a change in weather pattern more than anything else. We've had a really kind of clear dry spell, and you know, for me, it makes everything noisy. It's hard to get in and out of your stands undetected when you've got so many maple leaves that are just like potato chips on the ground. So I mean, I think in terms of deer behavior, you know, people that have hunted blacktails a long time know that they live for those storms, those late October storms. any kind of front that comes in, you're going to get a big low pressure, not a big, but we're going to get a low pressure come in tonight. That's going to bring some moisture. It's going to bring some rain. That cooler temperature and that wet is going to keep these deer up and moving. I don't know what it is. Blacktails love stormy weather. I mean, I've got a pile of friends down in Oregon and elsewhere that, over the years sent me pictures of deer that they've shot in just blow down rainstorms and windstorms. And I think there's reasons for that. People say that, deer don't feel very safe with all the wind noise, so they like to be out more in the open. Mm-hmm. That can make them more susceptible for rifle shots, maybe at the edge of a clear cut late in the morning. But again, with the pre-rut frenzy that we're in right now, these deer are just going to be up and moving when we have cool weather, wet weather. Even dry, cold, clear weather is phenomenal for this time of the year. But we've just had such a run of dry weather, we just need a change. And I think with that change, you're going to see increased activity.
Right on.
Is it not advised to either be in a tree stand tomorrow or a ground blind and maybe try a couple of doe bleeds, do a buck grunt, do any type of noise at all? Too early to rattle? How do you know when it's go time on making some noise to try and draw them in?
I say the last week of October, especially for people who've never tried deer calling, using rattling, antlers together or rattle bag, or using some buck grunts, soft buck grunts and doe bleeds. If you're making these sounds, not like a wild man, but you're doing it with some sort of, you might do a few doe bleats, wait a half an hour, do a couple buck grunts, wait 20 minutes. Anything that what you're trying to do with these calls is you're trying to catch that nearby buck who's cruising just out of range. Yeah. You're trying to tap into their hearing, right? Mm-hmm. So if you can sit quietly in a tree stand or a ground blind all day long, but it's just like locating or calling elk. You throw out a couple cow calls while you're moving through a canyon, you might get a bull on a side hill fire off at your cow call. Same deal. You're just trying to elicit a response from a passing buck. The other night I had a buck that I told you this, Dwayne. I've never seen a buck grunt as loud or as long as this buck did for nearly an hour. Another buck came in. There was trees getting thrashed, and eventually, about 100 yards away, I could hear a full-on brawl going down. Wow. Yeah. And the one buck I was looking at was in the 120 class. He was a really nice buck, and unfortunately, at 65 yards, I didn't have a shot. But he moved off, and that's where I'm going to be tomorrow evening in that same spot. But the grunting, there was probably a hot doe in there, or one that was coming in to estrus. And it's a bit early, but these were mature deer, and mature bucks don't usually get too excited until there's a reason to. And so I got to believe that they were on a doe that was coming in a little early, and it created that situation. So Rattling Antlers is another one, right? It simulates two bucks fighting. I always kind of come in soft and let it sit for half an hour and look around, use my binoculars. But this time of year, when you hear a fight in the woods, if you've ever heard it, it sounds like the biggest bonfire of cedar burning. It's the cracking and popping. It's just ridiculously loud, and they're mowing things over, and it's a full on fight. If you've ever seen it, I've seen it twice, and it's just incredible. But you're not trying to really produce that just yet. I think just Google Rattling Antlers, and you do a common rattling sequence. Right now is the best time to do it. You might catch a buck 150 yards away that was passing by or headed up a hillside, and he hears you rattling. You might turn around and come investigate. Any of these things aren't, they're not magic. They're not always going to work. But if they're another tool in the box. It's like changing lures or going from bait to artificial or artificial to bait when you're on a river or something. It's just changing it up, trying to find what's going to work.
Yeah, I think the one point you made, you're trying to capture the attention of that cruising buck, because just because I don't see them out in front of me throughout the day doesn't mean they're not circling around in the area somewhere, because they know with a couple apples on the ground or whatever it is you're utilizing to draw those does in periodically throughout the day or through the evening, those bucks know where those does congregate and come and do a little eating here and there. And you have them on camera. I mean, they're getting aggressive after these does, as I was explaining to Tommy early in the show. everything as of late on camera has been very aggressive bucks, displaying all those things, Tom, you and I have spent the last 3-4 years talking about when bucks exhibit pre-rut and right into rut behaviors with their sniffer poses and their curled lips and their aggressive kind of darting after these does and their tending grunts and those things that you hear in the darkness. It's all happening right now. So I think your point is valid in that, maybe start out a little on the soft side, but build it up, crescendo that thing to where maybe you're drawing the attention of that cruising buck or that big dog that just is holding out.
Yeah, and I always say try to envision the scenario that you're trying to emulate. Don't just haphazardly make noise. I'll start with a couple doe bleats. I'll give it 20, 30 minutes. And what I'm emulating with that 30 minutes of silence is how long it took maybe a deer to come in or 2 deer to come in. And then I might have a bit of a showdown around that doe, a couple grunts, showing some light aggression toward another buck. And then it builds from there into, okay, now we're going to sort this out with our antlers. And so you're always trying to emulate a realistic situation. Throwing a bunch of noise out there isn't really a good strategy, but I do encourage people to try calling. Blacktails are very susceptible to it. It doesn't work all the time, but when it does, I've turned complete go in blind, new area, turned complete silence into a shot opportunity in a matter of minutes by putting out a few soft doe bleats right now.
That's awesome. So you talked about the cruising buck a little bit, Tom, and I'm just curious, with blacktail, are they, when you get these older, more mature bucks, do they kind of, shorten the range that they typically travel, or do they increase that range as they get older and more mature? Like, talk about their travel behavior.
Yeah, so you'll have core bucks that live in an area, right? But when those bucks have maybe bred does or they're just getting impatient, they will go on a walk, they'll go on a tour, and I've seen bucks on camera, over a mile from where I was getting them on camera, a month earlier. In fact, one of my bigger blacktails, I took exactly a mile as a crow flies from where my stand was set up. I took that deer on the ground a mile away, and I didn't even know it was the same deer until I walked up on it. Wow. But no, they cruise, and they'll cruise all day long. That will happen more as we get into early November. But right now you're seeing kind of this pre-rut testosterone filled kind of frenzy. I call it a frenzy because it's haphazard. You'll see young bucks chasing does all over. You'll see bucks together not doing anything. You can see just about anything right now, but if you see a mature buck with a doe, and he's tending that doe, meaning he's staying with her at all costs, you're probably looking at an area where that doe is coming in early. And again, these are things you should take note of, because every little subgroup of deer that you're hunting, I don't care if you're a mile away, half mile away, 2 miles away, what the climate of the rut will be different in different areas based on the composition of the deer herd in that area. So if you've got a higher buck to doe ratio in an area that's adjacent to a suburban area, you might have a really crazy rut that comes on a little early, as opposed to further out into some big timber country where deer are more dispersed and the competition isn't as fierce. So you kind of have to tailor your hunting strategies and tactics to the knowledge of the local deer area. If I'm hunting big clear-cut country like DNR land or whatever, timber company land, I'll spend a lot more time covering ground. And that is because I simply need to find deer.
Looking forward to the weather change happening tonight and into tomorrow morning. Hopefully get some guys out cruising around. I had quite a bit of activity at my site this morning right up until daylight. So that doesn't help too much. Indoor, they like to show up 10 minutes after shooting light. So hopefully tomorrow. And you're hunting all 3 days, aren't you, if you need to?
Let's see. Yeah, I'm hunting. Well, let's see. We get to the 31st, so I'm hunting tomorrow and Saturday.
We have the 1st, November 1st. So
he's
Sunday.
taking a sick day tomorrow, Dwayne. Don't put him on the spot.
Yeah. We're hunting Sunday the 1st. So and then You have, I think you told me you got a multi-season tag, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I always upgrade if I can. If I put in for it, didn't draw it. But if you put in for it, you don't draw it. You can buy a leftover over the counter. You got to pay the upgrade price. But for me, you know, time is money, and for $130 some odd, I can hunt between September, from September to December with every open season. So it's money in the bank for me. It's time, it's flexibility with family. It's all those things. So
Hey, we've ran a little long, but before you go, I wanted to make sure we got in for you to mention the tooth study. WDFW is gathering intel from turning in teeth out of your blacktail deer this year once again on your bucks. Real quickly, give us the information on that, where folks can go to get that information and what it's all about.
Right. So, I think this is the tail end of a study on blacktail deer, trying to correlate age with antler points and other things. So if you did take a buck this year, you still have the lower jaw. You can take out one of the front 2 incisors on the lower jaw, and there's instructions on the DFW website. You can do blacktail deer tooth submission. I think we've even got it featured there somewhere. But there's an online form, instructions on how to do it. You can send in your tooth, and they'll age that tooth for you, and then you'll be part of helping out with some of the research around blacktails, which, you know, for me, I can't get enough research on blacktail deer. They're very elusive deer, and they're very complex, and they bring a lot of entertainment. But the more we know, the better we can understand them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, buddy, appreciate the time. Good luck. Good luck the next few days you're out hunting. Hopefully you bag one, and we're exchanging pictures here in the next couple days. So.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Good luck,
I hope so. Good luck to you, Dwayne. Thank you,
buddy. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yep.
All right, you can look up Tom Ryle on his Facebook page. You can also find him at PNW, Pacific Northwest Bow Hunter, PNW Bow Hunter. He's got a lot of blogs out there that he's written over the last several years. A lot of it has to do with appropriate times of the year to rattle and what that sequence should look and sound like. Scent or no scent, when to scent, when it's appropriate. He's just got a host of blogs and information out there. Very, very astute, wealth of knowledge with him. And hopefully you gain something out of that if you are pursuing blacktail in the next few days and or the late season that's coming up, or you archers as we round the corner after the 7th and you have opportunity as well. Okay, we are jumping out for a quick break. We come back. This week's how-to, brought to you by Max Lure, is out on the water. Tommy, when we were out on the river here last week, we took opportunity to shoot a couple of things. Now, for some of you, you may think, well, this is kind of lame. Well, you know what? There's something to be said about fishing out of a boat, landing small fish, fishing out of a boat, landing big fish, using a net.
Using a harpoon.
Using a harpoon.
Yep.
Using a 22.
There we go.
Things like that.
Snake charmer.
If you are in a drift boat or a sled, or you're floating down river and you hook a decent fish and using a net, okay, because you're still in the boat. If you step out to land that fish and you're working a gravel bar, one thing that always drove me nuts is you're fishing a gravel bar, you're getting ready to land your fish, and people come running at you with a net. Right?
I hate it when that happens.
They're going to run into the river, they're going to scoop a fish up with a net in the river. I'm just like, hey, because I watch.
Don't touch my fish.
They knock them right off the line for you. You got barbless hooks, the whole deal. So, but to be honest, some folks do struggle with appropriate, angle, distance, technique when landing larger fish up onto gravel bars. And I'm not talking about dragging them all the way out of the water and putting them up in the dirt. I'm talking about bringing that fish to rest at the water's edge so you can get a hand on the tail and take care of your fish appropriately, especially if you have fish that you need to release. Part of what we like to do here at Fish on Northwest is educate you with small components of how-tos and little insightful tidbits, things we've learned over the years that work for us in the field. Take it or leave it. Hopefully it benefits a few of you. So we'll jump out for a quick break. When we come back, we're going to take a little shot out there on the river on landing fish and appropriate techniques right here at Fish on Northwest. Allied boats are built by West Coast fishermen for West Coast fishermen. Deep V 21-degree dead rise at the transom guarantees a smooth ride no matter the conditions.
Allied offers all of our boats with Honda outboard packages so that you can take full advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty from your Honda outboard. Allied boats range from 19 to 32 foot in length, so no matter what type of heavy gauge boat you are looking for, we have it for you. All of our Corsair 21 foot and larger designs come standard with reverse chine that is welded inside and out with no extrusions below the waterline, so that you will never have to worry about corrosion problems down the road. Get out on the water today in a boat that you can trust and enjoy with Allied Boats. Contact us at Allied Boats today to learn much more about our incredible fishing machines.
What if there was a smarter way to search for your new home? Introducing the Better Homes and Gardens real estate website and mobile app. This revolutionary new search tool puts your needs first. Narrow your search to what matters most to your family, like school data, school districts, and even walk scores. Get easy access to your local affiliated agent, as well as unique and local insights about neighborhoods and properties directly within the app. With synced and saved preferences, you'll always pick up wherever you left off. Get your smarter search started today with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate.
Guys, pretty good day today on the water once again. Got into a handful of Chinook and some chum that are starting to come into the river. The coho eluded us, lost a couple. Had one up close on eggs, lost another on a jig. That's fishing, but one thing I want you to do is take a minute here, watch this next little segment we did. It's basically walking through the process of landing a fish. For a lot of you guys and gals that fish gravel bars or bank fish, and or you get out of your drift boat and are fishing a gravel bar, how to easily land a fish on the gravel and keep them in the water. You know, don't drag them up into the sand and cause any damage to the fish. And then how to care for the fish and release it if it's a fishery where you're catching and releasing fish that you cannot keep. So check out this next little segment. Walks you through that process of landing fish on the gravel bar and how to safely release. Enjoy. Man, oh man. Kind of a slow start this morning. Didn't really get into that many fish. We beat up a lot of really good water, a lot of twitching, a lot of bobber and eggs through some current seams, beads, looking for coho. Wrestled with a couple older Chinook. And now we got down here, the wind really picked up this afternoon, so now we're really fighting the leaves. But we're getting into a few fish. They seem to be fresher fish too moving in, so we're hoping some of these coho will start moving in as well. We're gonna start twitching in this hole. We also got some chum starting to show up in the river, so that's kind of exciting. This is definitely a Chinook. We'll get them tired down here. I want to talk to you guys about landing fish without a net when you're fishing a gravel bar, how to take care of your fish. And on some of these systems right now that we can't retain, even these hatchery Chinook, and we've been getting a lot of hatchery fish, how to land them and release them and basically keep them in the water the whole time. So it's kind of important. Another decent fish. Definitely have some brighter fish moving in compared to what we saw this morning. Getting a little lower in the system, and the fish are actually coming in, even though water is definitely dropping, and absolutely gin clear. We got a little side pressure on the head. So it breaks and I smack Josh in the face with my rod. Chill out. Alright, so as we get this fish tired, I'm going to keep about 10 to 12 feet of distance, okay? I know a lot of guys like to reel down right to your bobber and drag that fish up on the beach. That's not how you do it. When these fish start getting tired, they start to lay over a little bit. And as they lay over, and if you keep the right angle and the distance, with a little tension on your rod, you actually get that fish just to kind of flop up into the shallow waters. Okay, and that's what we're going to do as we get near shore. So let's stay back. That fish will just kind of cruise right on in. If that fish is going that way, I'm going to go this way. The fish turns and goes up this way. I'm going to steer its head back down this way. And then it's like a 45-degree angle. I'm going to come back up here because the fish turns. Okay? About 10 feet. Turn that fish around. Right about there. Oh, that's a nice big one. Barbless hook comes right out. She got a little color to her, but so literally this fish never came out of the water, and she's doing just fine. Hooked her in the snout, landed it without dragging it up into the sand and the rocks. And she's doing just fine, and we're just going to push her back in here. She's already ready to go, so off she goes. Basically, that's how you land a fish when you're on the bank. It's all about distance. Keep your distance. Give yourself 10 or 12 feet. Again, that fish turns and is going upriver. You want to be downriver, a little side pressure, 45 degrees. Fish turns around, runs back downriver. You want to come upriver, okay? Turn that fish around. And when they begin to get a little tired, they're going to just slowly start to swim. And if they lay over, you don't have to yank them up onto the beach. Just keeping that rod pressure, that fish will flop right up into the shallow water. And once they lay over in that shallow water, don't drag them all the way out of the water. Keep them in the shallow water. Get those hooks out. Make sure they're good and strong and they swim away. And that's how you do it. Josh, what are you doing? Anyway, hey, I hope you enjoyed that. Simply just a process I utilize. It's all about angle and distance. Don't get uptight, don't get tied up. Don't get uptight. Don't get tied up onto your fish and try to horse them. That's how you break rods. That's how you snap fish off. Keep a little distance and utilize that current in the direction of the fish to get them on near the gravel bar. Try to keep them in the water and release them unharmed. Hopefully you picked up on a couple things from that. We're gonna jump out for a quick break. We come back, we'll probably be back in studio with something else for you to watch. Stay tuned.
Hey, you catch a bright fish, we'll put you on video, Josh. Welcome back. Anyway, just a little something to look at. We're trying to come out with tricks and technique tips. I think next week, Tommy will probably show actually cleaning. The coho I got this last week took time to video actually because people ask, when do you clean your fish? You clean it in the river. What do I do with my eggs? These questions do come across our messenger. And so I try to take those and utilize them to create a how-to out in the field because we do plenty of them here in the studio. So when we're on the water, if we can supply you that information, we will. And that was just an example there. And of course, Josh had a starring moment in that little piece that we did. He did a fantastic job. All right. If you got any questions about that, go ahead and hit us up here at Fish Hunt Northwest. We are going to jump out for a quick break. We come back. Tommy, a little emergency on the mountain, as it were.
Yep.
The elk hunt was successful to a point, as you stated earlier, had a little unexpected happening. resulted in an emergent situation, resulted in some pretty significant injuries.
Yeah, very significant.
Persons had a right to be concerned, and it led to a flight from one hospital to the next to ensure this gentleman got the proper care he needed. So
that's right.
Nothing to kind of just go, no big deal. This is pretty important. People understand that things happen at any time. Right?
There's some lessons that we're going to cover and some things that are applicable to pretty much any hunting situation. So
well, good. We'll jump out for a quick break. We come back. We're going to talk about emergency on the mountain with none other than Tommy Donlan right here at Fish Hunt Northwest. Defiance boats are built without any structural wood materials. That is why we back our boats with a lifetime warranty. All of our Defiance boats come standard with large fish boxes that are fully insulated so that you can ice your fish properly all day. Defiance boats feature a 21 to 22 degree dead rise at the transom and a large reverse chine for incredible handling and stability offshore. Defiance boats are foam flotation filled and unsinkable for the ultimate in safety while fishing offshore. Defiance boats feature fuel-efficient hull designs with large fuel tank capacity so that you can have maximum fuel range for making long offshore runs completely safe and affordable. All Defiance boats come standard with self-bailing decks for improved safety while at sea. Defiance Boat offers all our boats with Honda outboard packages so that you can take full advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty from your Honda outboard. Defiance Boats for all your boating needs, and let us help you get out on the water. Welcome back, Fish Hunt Northwest. Tommy, so you just recently returned from your elk hunting trip, as we discussed earlier in the show, and I was a bit surprised the story you told me the other day as we got caught up on your return home, and this was a pretty significant story, and it happened early on in your guys's.
It did. It was about 4 days in.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about what happened, how this whole thing went down, and what happened. Just tell the story. Yeah,
absolutely. So the spot that we hunt in Idaho, like I mentioned, there's a lot of timber, and we do a lot of collaborative hunts where we're working together and we're trying to converge on an area at the same time. We were basically driving down a knoll. We had 3 guys that were coming down the knoll, and we were going to make it to the bottom. Had a couple guys at the bottom. We're going to get picked up by 4-wheelers, ATVs, and we're going to ride back up to our ATVs that we dropped off at the top, and then go on to the next hunt. And made it back up to the top of the ridge, got on our quads, and now we're going back down to meet the rest of the hunting party. And there was 4 quads, 1 person per quad, and we were just doing, it was nothing crazy. There was nobody speeding or anything like that. Middle of the day, luckily. No adverse weather at that point in time. It was pretty, the sun was out, no icy conditions, no rain, nothing like that. And we're going through some switchbacks. I was the number 2 quad. I had 1 person in front of me, 2 people behind me. And what I like to do, I always try to make sure that, as you're driving, you're looking over your shoulder, making sure that, whoever's following you, they're still there. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Came around a corner, looked back, and all I see is a 1,000cc Can-Am doing a complete 180 in the middle of the logging road. And I'm like, holy crap. So I get on the, we have kind of headsets that we use for our radios, so it's pretty hands-free. You can hit a button, talk, let go, and you don't have a lot of involvement with the radio. So I hit the radio, called the person in front of me and said, hey, I think somebody crashed, come back. And so that person that was ahead of me immediately turns around. I turn around and go back, and the guy that was behind me in the Can-Am saw the last person in our lineup crash and roll an ATV on a corner, coming into a corner. And there was kind of some washboard on the road. Don't know exactly how it happened, but he hit that washboard, turned the quad completely sideways in the road, and it must have gotten tripped by the washboard and threw the guy off the quad. The quad tumbled twice, once on top of him, one more time, and then shot off the road to the right, and the guy slid to the left. And so we made it back to the scene within seconds. I mean, we were there immediately. This individual was completely out cold, like non-responsive, head trauma, bleeding from the head, just not responsive at all. And so the gentleman that was behind me made it there first. Was trying to communicate with the individual, checking for breathing. I immediately, I stopped, looked, and then I knew I had to get a 911 call out, and luckily with Ron here about a month ago with his grizzly attack, we talked about 911 and how that should, if you've got service or if you can obtain service, that should always be your first step, right? Your first go-to. But I didn't have service where we were. So I had to go about 2 to 3 miles up a ridge to kind of a peak where I had some, open airspace and, got cell phone service and got a 911 call out immediately. When I made the call, where we are, there's a lot of different, road numbers, road names, the names of the roads change. And so I gave them the road name, but in addition to that, I also gave them the exact GPS coordinate of the accident so that they could find that easily on a map and they knew how to get there. Yeah. Right. So they dispatched an ambulance and one more response vehicle. They came to the scene of the accident. The person was out for about 1 minute or so. Finally came to, was responsive, obviously dazed and confused at first with the concussion. Individual ended up having 10 broken ribs, damage to one lung. We thought potentially, more broken bones. We weren't sure about the person's back. The person was in a lot of pain. So you just don't know. So we didn't move this person. We pretty much left the individual right where they were, got some emergency blankets out, made sure they were warm, and then just, luckily one of the people that we had in our group was a registered nurse and had her BSN and has done a lot of work in the medical field. And so she was like on top of things in terms of evaluating the individual and knew kind of what to look for in terms of vital signs and things like that. And so finally we had the emergency response vehicle show up, put the individual on a board and got them to the hospital. But it was like, it's a small town hospital. So they didn't really have all of the medical equipment really necessary to evaluate, the person. So then that individual got medevaced to Kootenai Hospital in Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah, I mean, CT scans and whatever else, additional x-rays and things they need to, so they stabilize them there at the small center and then fly them on. Right. How long did it take emergency vehicles to land where you guys were?
From the time I made the call, it was about an hour and 20 minutes.
Until they got there? No.
Because we're in the middle of nowhere. Accessible by logging roads, but other than that, it's remote.
Folks out hunting one night, you trip, you get your leg jammed up in a hole against a log or something, you snap a leg, you break a tip fib. You got physical injuries that you can see, but something like this, that internal stuff, those ribs, that lung, my gosh, you could rupture a liver, you could hit a spleen. There's so many unknowns, and thank God you guys had a nurse there because to continue to monitor somebody to see if they're regressing, going into shock, and how to treat for that in the field. Hour and 20 minutes is a long time. Person's injured can become hypothermic, even if it's 40, 50 degrees out, and become hypothermic. There's all kinds of things that can go on. So, out of your group of 10, how many carry first aid kits?
I would say probably about maybe a quarter.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How many of those
because it's zero. Yeah. Because a lot of the hunts that we do are, and this is one of those things that if you're a quarter mile from camp and this happens, it may be too long for you to, the time that you incur going back to camp and then back to the individual, that might be too much. We were 4 miles away, 4 or 5 miles away from camp where we've got a full suite of equipment and stuff like that. But that's too long, right? So really, one of the lessons learned that I took away from this is that it doesn't matter where you're hunting, even if you're going for what you would consider a short walk, you need to be prepared, right? And you need to have a lot of these things at your disposal. The other thing I would say is that, we were in an area where we could still obtain cell phone service. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have cell phone service, you got to have another means of communication.
Absolutely.
Right? And I wouldn't rely on your two-way radio.
No.
And so, this is something that I always carry. This is a spot, and I'll say that, I carry this on the water too. And it tracks you can have it set up to go to 10 different people, tracks your GPS location, drops a pin every 10 minutes, and it's also got an SOS capability on it to get emergency help.
Yeah, there you go.
Also got, the Garmin radio is nice, just in terms of, a waterproof mapping option, but it really doesn't have that emergency capability. But you got to have something. If you're on the water, it's a G-Perb or an E-Perb. If you're in the woods, an InReach, a Garmin InReach, somehow that you can actually get a satellite-based communication out, you need to have some sort of widget that does that.
Yeah. And being prepared, you and I had talked about, we're only a mile or two from camp. If something happens, we're pretty short distance. And I had made the mention that, a lot of would-be lost hikers, common theme you hear is, they went for a day hike, so they didn't really pack for an overnight exposure problem, or they didn't really pack for an overnight expectation. You always have to prepare for the unexpected, right? Mm-hmm. So by taking those resources with you, somebody out of that group on one of the rigs, adequate first aid kit, tourniquets and things, there are multiple stories of hunters barely surviving, coming out of woods, gutting an animal, sticking their knee with their gutting knife and cutting a major artery.
Yep. By the way, that just happened in Hawaii.
Yeah.
One of the guys that, I follow and keep track of, we're good friends with the Lannis family on the Big Island, and Justin Lannis had that exact problem.
Yeah.
Stuck his leg with a knife and was bleeding profusely and had to apply a tourniquet to his own leg.
Yeah.
I mean, that happens.
You don't think about it, but man, it happens that quick because knives are sharp and they can bust through quicker than you think. And you just happen to stick and legs are common. Sticking yourself in the leg as you're, spread out over an animal and you're going up that, just getting in there, gutting, whatever. It happens, and it happens quick. The flip of the ATV, it happens quick. You guys don't wear helmets. You're out there in the wilderness, you're thinking, but is there harm putting a helmet on while you ride, leave it with the ATV while you go hunt?
You're right.
Things like that people, you just kind of take for granted until something like this happens.
Yep.
So there's always takeaways, there's always things to improve on. I think you and I are going to walk down the line of, maybe as we're kind of into this hunting season, something to think about for next year. Maybe we'll just really dial in a feasible couple different options of first aid kits and what you really need to have to ensure your safety and survivability. If you're hiking into the high country for like a 10-day, you don't want this monster pack, but there are a few things you can take that's going to be a difference in survivability or death. So,
absolutely.
Things we need to cover. Well, I'm glad your buddy sounds like he's going to make a recovery.
Yeah, he got really lucky. He's going to have the damage to his lung ended up being minimal. It sounds like he's got an 8-week recovery, which I think is like the absolute best case scenario based on what happened.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Fortunately, he's going to be good to go. So.
And there's a 4-wheeler for sale if you're interested.
Slightly scraped.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good ending on that, and glad everybody made it out, and you guys continue with your hunt and actually put down some animals. So not a complete loss. So, all right, that's going to do it for us. Ran a little over, but that's what happens when the stories are that involved. With the big man. Okay, you're going to be gone for a week or two out
elk hunting,
and get some elk. So
it's all about elk.
Yeah, all about elk. Good luck to everybody that's going to be getting out hunting the rest through the weekend, and of course as it opens for archery on the 7th, and of course elk hunting opens on the 7th. We got some options to take advantage of. We got rain coming, maybe 2nd, 3rd, somewhere in there, 3rd, 4th. Fishing should get to be lights out in some of these local rivers, 6, 7, 8. look at that the following weekend. Some good opportunities on coho, chum, if you so incline. Just a lot of really good opportunity right now, and we'll get to a point mid-month here. We got some clam digs coming up. We can get past the domoic acid, and we can get back on the beaches and harvest.
Right. Get past the COVID.
Get past the COVID, and we can get some clams. We got some crabbing opportunity to take full advantage of, which sounds like you're going to do for a day. So there is plenty to get out and do. Again, post your pictures up here, Fish Hunt Northwest. Share with us your successes. We like to put that out there and promote you in your successful outings, especially the family stuff when you get the kids out there. It just makes for great conversation. All right, that'll do it for us this week. Join us back here next week, 6 p.m. Thursday evening, right here in the studios, Fish Hunt Northwest. Have a great week. We'll see you next Thursday.